Hi, this is Crystal from Homestead Odyssey. Thanks for joining us today. We're back from our vacation and I wanted to start something a little new now that we are back home. I'm going to do a little check-in every couple weeks, maybe once a month. We'll kind of see how things are progressing to show you guys where our animals are at, where our garden is at, and kind of how we're growing our backyard homestead. There's not a lot to show you this time around, but it's a good starting point so that you can see where we're starting and where we get. Okay. So when we left for our trip, everything was covered in snow. You can still see a little bit of snow over there. Our yard is definitely in need of a yard cleanup, but now that we can see the ground, we can start working on that. Here is one of our garden areas. You can see the garden bed that we built in the fall last year, and we started to fill it. It's not full all the way. And then the rest of this area just has old kind of starting compost leaves, hay from our goats, and then some packages of peat moss. All this will be used to make additional beds and add to this bed. We're going to be building more beds coming this way off of that bed. And our yard is a bit torn up. The chickens have been escaping. They broke a hole through this fence, and we're going to take care of that later today because it's starting to rain. Chickens are all doing good. It's very, very muddy in their run right now, which is not the most fun to deal with, but they're doing good. We had one casualty this winter. We don't actually even know what happened to the chicken, but it was outside in the cold and for some reason didn't go into the coop, which was open, but it died. But all the rest of our birds made it, are doing healthy and strong, looking good. And then our garden over here, we've got another pile of hay from our goats that is kind of breaking down for us, getting ready for us to put in later this year. It has not been warm enough for me to check our bees yet. I'm hoping to get into them later this week. We're supposed to get up to 60 degrees later on in this week. This garden bed is where we put down all the old hay for trying the Ruth Stout method. I'm really interested to see how this works out this year. We haven't grown a lot over here because there are tons of weeds in this area. So hopefully, it looks like the hay is broken down quite a bit, and we'll be going back over it with more old hay that we have. We are completely out of hay in our little hay area, so we will be having to get some more. Okay, now I will take you inside and show you what we have going on in there. What are you doing? Where are you going? Where's that Zoe? Oh no, don't get me all muddy. Here are the cabbages that we replanted. They've been sitting overnight under this grow light, which is a little bit small for it, but we have more grow lights coming tomorrow that are a little bit bigger that hopefully will help us prevent the plants from getting so leggy. But after just sitting under them overnight, a lot of these were kind of still slanted to the side, have come up a lot better. And surprisingly, none of them have struggled from transplant shock, which I'm really glad because I was worried that not very many of them would make them as I was separating out the seedlings. Back here, we've got just a few coming up. These were planted right before our trip. We've got some lavender coming up over here. I've got none of the cone flowers have come up. There's one little yarrow plant right here. It's kind of hard to see because they're really teeny. And then I've got a couple thyme plants that seeds have come up. And then over here we've got some more onions. These were more of those seeds that were like 8 years old. And so I'm not super surprised that not all of them have come up. I will probably go through and try to reseed the ones that haven't come up to see if we can get some more growing. But again, we knew these were really old seeds that we had left over. So, and in this tray, we've got a lot more onions. These onions here, we bought new, so There's a lot more coming up. I'm kind of surprised there's a lot that don't have them in there because we seeded it pretty thickly and these were newer seeds, but it is what it is. None of my elderberries have come up, which is making me a little nervous, but we can always plant more seeds and try again because I have more. We don't have any comfrey coming up, and I noticed that we're getting some green on here. I don't know if this is moss or what really that is. And this our kale is also leggy. I will probably work on transplanting those soon as well. And I'll show you some other plants I've got in my kitchen because we ran out of room in the laundry room, which is why we're getting more lights, and we're moving these all downstairs. Oh, and I did miss, this is the lacy elderberry that we grew from a cutting. It was just one stick, looked completely dead, but it looks beautiful right now. And then these are some of my kiddos' 4-H projects. This is a basil plant that my son is learning about how to propagate, and that's his basil he propagated. And then I've got another kiddo who is growing some pumpkin seeds for 4-H. In this pot we have a bunch of mint growing. This was another one of my son's 4-H propagating projects, and so he started this from just a couple cuttings and it's really taking over. And then it's kind of hard to get to, but we have some succulents that we started from cuttings as well that are getting quite a bit bigger. And so those are kind of fun to see. Here's our last tray. We had to move it into our kitchen because we ran out of room in the laundry room, and we don't have our other grow lights yet, and we get okay amount of sun here. This row right here is parsley that we have growing. We haven't had any rosemary come up yet. Then these are chives, but this does not look like a chive plant, so I don't know if something got mixed in it. This is one that I'm kind of surprised we don't have more growing because these were brand new seeds. And then it's going to be really hard to see. I'll try to get really close. But these are little strawberry seedlings. Got one. Where is it? Right there. And we've got a couple over here. They're really teeny tiny. Here's one. Got a little cluster here. We've got a little bit. But I counted them up and there's about 20 little seedlings for strawberries. So hopefully those take off really well. And then here are some of the cabbage plants that I moved into the pots that either I'll take to the trade or I'll maybe try to sell them on our Facebook pages. And they look like they're doing a lot better as well. So that's where our seeds are at this point. We are hoping to start some more seeds once our grow lights come, and hopefully Steven is hoping to start some of our raised beds, and he wants to build kind of a cold frame on top of them so we can get the cabbages. And then I'm going to be starting broccoli soon, and those will be able to move out sooner than later with those cold frames. So with chickens, I swear every year it's like this challenge of how do we find out a new way to get out of the chicken run and dig up the yard, and us trying to find new ways to keep them in. We built this new fencing. We saw this idea on, I think, Pinterest or Facebook, but after we installed it, we realized the cattle panels are so big that the chickens fit through, so we ran wire through the holes to block it. But in a couple areas, they have pushed the wire out of their way so that they can sneak through, and we have, obviously, as you can see, several getting out. So I found, it's kind of hard to see, that this fencing that has much smaller holes, and I'm gonna put it on the front of the door. It happens to be raining, so I'm not gonna be able to set up the tripod to watch this. I also can't find our really good wire cutter, so I'm putting this whole sheet on here, but I'm gonna come back and later cut it in half because I don't need the entire length covered up, just mostly the bottom part. So it's not beautiful. Maybe in the future we'll come back with new chicken wire, but this is what we had in our yard and had handy and ready so that we could try to get these chickens to stay in this run a little better. I really want to make sure we can keep them in the run. Another problem we've had with growing gardens in the past is naughty chickens coming and destroying it as soon as I plant stuff. So as we're getting ready to start building some raised beds, we don't want them out here destroying everything that we are building. Well, it looks like fixing the door helped, at least for now, because nobody has left the pen since we fixed it. We picked up these Cornish cross broilers from the store while we were on our way back from our trip. They are about 2 to 3 weeks old already, so they have a little bit of a head start. We didn't mind buying bigger birds. It just means less time that we're having to feed them. You'll see a couple little birds. They are some bantams that my sons got for fair that we're just gonna grow out with these guys. We ended up getting 12 broilers, and we're kind of excited for this experiment. We'll see how it goes. Their water, it's kind of hard to see from that angle, but it's an orange color. We bought some electrolytes for chickens. Looks like. So we picked up some electrolytes for the chicks because we picked them up on our way home, which meant we had a several hour drive. They were gonna already be a little bit dehydrated because we didn't have water in the car, in the box for them. We just want to make sure they had a good kind of head start. Also, the feed that we got, we do a non-medicated feed, but this feed has probiotics in it, and so it'll have some good beneficial stuff for them to kind of give them that boost. We've had that water over there for several years now. We've used it for several groups of chicks. It works okay, it just, they get it really dirty. I picked up this, which has one of the water nipples on it, but I found that it was too hard for the chicks to push the nipple in. So maybe when they get bigger, they'll be able to use this. And then we picked up this new feeder today. We haven't had any that are gravity fed, and I think it'll be nicer so that we're not constantly having to refill their food throughout the day. Pretty excited. Thanks again for joining us as we did kind of a checkup of where our backyard homestead is at this point. I think it'll be kind of cool to look back at the end of this year at all our different checkup points and kind of see where we started from and where we got to. If you want to keep up to date with our progress and what we're doing, give us a thumbs up and subscribe and hit that notification button, that little bell next to the subscribe. That's how you get to keep up to date with the things we're doing. And thanks again for joining us.